Here's another video from me, Sarah. Hello, nice to see you again. About hinge behaviours. I did an introduction as to what a hinge behaviour is, but in my experience, a hinge behaviour are those behaviours that once you crack and you can start to explore those, it then opens up a whole world of other little behaviours that ultimately speeds up the recovery process. I've spoken about stopping weighing yourself. I'm now going to speak about stopping weighing food. Now, there is nothing more disordered than weighing food other than the food when you're baking. So if you're listening to this and you're weighing bread, vegetables, cereal, pasta, rice, salad, lettuce, I used to weigh lettuce, milk, coffee, tea, you name it. If you're weighing food that's not because it's a process of the baking, you're making a cake, then that needs to stop. Now, I know why your chances are you're weighing food. Chances are you're weighing food because you're trying to keep things in certain parameters. You've told yourself, or actually your eating disorder has told you, that you're allowed certain amount of X at this point of the day, so you're weighing it in order to make sure that you just stick within those rules that anorexia or your eating disorder has set for you. Now, the first thing to think about for this hinge behaviour is that's utter rubbish. You have permission, absolute permission, to eat what you want, when you want, and in whatever quantity you want. For the rest of your life, regardless of being in recovery, we all have permission to eat what we want, when we want, and in whatever quantity we want. Get that one out of the way first and foremost. But how possibly could we go through a process to start getting it so that we can stop weighing food? Okay, so one option, and I wish I could have done this, is to just say to yourself, today you're going to stop and go all in, stop, just do it, whatever you need to do, and just stop. That is the best option. Just ditch your scales, whatever you need to do, just stop. Now, I tried that and it just sent me down it was horrendous. So I had to do, like I've spoken about before, a gradual and phased exposure routine to do with this particular hinge behaviour. So what I did is I layered the things that I was stopping weighing and stopping measuring, but every time I added another food, I kept the one beforehand. So it's not I've cracked that now, I'll move on. It's little steps and you're building, incrementing, so that you're getting a bigger and bigger portfolio of things that you're not weighing. And then before you know it, you've stopped altogether. So the three things I started with were fruit, vegetables, and bread. Okay, so for me, weighing those three were the most disordered. So for me, siphoning through a loaf of bread in order to find the smallest piece to weigh was totally disordered. I needed to be able to open a loaf of bread and just take out the first slice that I came to. So I chose those three and I literally just stopped. So I still did other things because I was doing this gradual and phased, but the three that I stopped first were fruit, veg, and bread. Fruit and veg are also an important one for me to crack first in terms of a hinge behaviour, because fruit and veg, when you're on eating disorder recovery, they can become a filler. Okay, so your chances are, I'm almost guessing, please tell me if I'm wrong, that if you are kind of stuck in your recovery, if you look at your plate, 3/4 of it will be fruit or vegetables, and there'll be a tiny portion of protein and carb. Now, you have to start to learn to see that the fruit and vegetables are just extras, They're not part of the proper meal. Yes, I know they're good for us, but in eating disorder recovery, the carbs and the protein is the best bit for us because that's the bit that's going to help us repair quicker. And also, you don't want to just fill up on a load of lettuce because that's not going to allow you to be eating what you should be eating. So from a hinge behaviour point of view, cracking, weighing vegetables and fruit were really important. Because I was just totally disordered weighing lettuce and cucumber. Also, though, because it was meant that I wasn't then seeing it as kind of like the bulk of my meal. It was making me learn that the other bits and pieces of my meal were more important actually in my recovery. Bread was trickier than I thought, I'll be honest. So what I started to do, for a period of time, I didn't buy like bread out to slice myself because there was too many thought processes in that. It was, which bit to use, how thick to cut it, do I cut it on an angle? It just took me down a spin of all the different choices that I used to have issues with. So I just went bog standard, best of both, Hovis best of both, I think was my bread of choice to start off with. Open the bag, take 2 slices, close the bag, away I go. Okay, so having it the pre-sliced bread made it really easy to start that process, because that's what I told myself I had to have. Every time I had bread, I had to have 2 slices at least, so I just took them straight out the bag. Once I'd done fruit, vegetables and bread, I did that for maybe a week, a fortnight maybe, I think, I can't quite remember. I then kept those 3 in, and I then added cereal and milk. Now, in terms of hinge food and hinge behaviours, cereal and milk were really important because they topped and tailed my day. So when I was doing this in my eating disorder recovery, I was in a period where I was having cereal for breakfast and cereal for supper. And it was really important that I broke anorexia's control in that period from the second I woke up, and then the period just before I went to bed. Because by having her control those huge parts of my day, breakfast and supper, it meant that I was waking up and she was in control, and I was going to sleep and she was in control. Being able to not weigh and measure milk and cereal also meant that it then started to become easy to have milk in things like cups of tea and cups of coffee that I wasn't having. Because I was starting to free pour on cereal, it meant that that free pouring action actually was really helpful. And this is why these hinge behaviours are really weird. It meant for me that then free pouring things like orange juice and apple juice started to become loads easier. Similarly, free pouring cereal was super important. So I just had a normal, like, pudding bowl, and I would just pour it up until it was about 3/4 full. And that's what I got my eye in. And yes, it was a spin, and yes, it was a struggle, but I just had to do it. But by free pouring cereal, it had a knock-on effect to then me being able to be less bothered about weighing rice and pasta, because it's the same sort of thing in my head. It like looked similar. So that cereal became a hinge behaviour. Not weighing that cereal was a hinge behaviour for then not weighing rice and pasta. So you can see how it suddenly started to gain momentum and it suddenly started to grow. So your main best option for stopping weighing food is just to stop. But if you're thinking you need a gradual and phased exposure like I did, pick 2 or 3 to start off with and then build. But once you've put it in, you don't take it back out again, okay? So once it's in your catalogue, you don't suddenly say, right, oh, I can do that now, I'm going to go back to weighing it. No. You have to make sure that you're constantly growing this list and it's getting stronger and stronger and stronger. Okay, I hope that helps in some way, shape or form, and I'll hopefully see you soon.